All right, you guys. So in this video, we're going to start doing the cloning thing, right? So we're going to make clones of this sprite that we've hidden together. And we're going to have the clones come down from the top. And we're going to have them come down. And we're going to also program the functionality of detecting our motion so that our motion can essentially be worked into the game and act as a barrier against these falling clones. So let's do this together. So first we're going to go over here and use the command when I start as a clone. So we come over here and there we go. When I start as a clone. And we're first going to make sure that the clone is shown because remember, first we're not showing the sprite at all. So when we make a clone of the sprite, we need to make sure that first it's actually shown. So we're going to grab the show, I'm going to put it here. And of course, we're also going to have a function that places this sprite up top in a random spot, right? So we're going to make that function as well. We're going to go to my blocks and we're going to make, let's say, go top. All right, so the go top function is essentially going to be a function where we just put it at a random position. All right, so we just say, hey, go to X. And we're not just going to use this random position one because we want it, even though we want it to be a random position, we want it to be a random position up top, right? So not just any random position, if that makes sense. We don't want it to like show up over here on the screen or anything. We want it to show up somewhere here up top and then just slowly fall down, if that makes sense. So we're not going to use this one. We're going to have to use this one. And we're going to have to use an operator that has a random generator. And we're going to say for the X, we're going to pick randomly between -250 and +250. But for the Y, we're just going to have that as +250. All right. So this ensures that the Y is 250, so it's above this top line, and it's actually above our screen when it starts out as a clone. And this random generator ensures that it's somewhere in this range, right? Somewhere, like doesn't matter where it is exactly, but the X is going to be somewhere within our range. All right, so that's why we've had that there. So now that we have this function working, we're just going to add that over here, and we're going to say, hey, every time you start as a clone, make sure you show that sprite that is the clone, and make sure that you go to the top in that random position that we've defined. All right, so hopefully you're with me so far. And then we're going to have a forever controller where we're having this clone forever go down unless, of course, we either hit it up or it gets to the water. So forever, we're going to be having this go down and also checking to see if either of those two things happen. So first, we're going to go to motion and have the position of the clone essentially change by a little bit. So let's say the change Y by, let's just say -5. Should be good. And what we're going to do is we're going to check and see if we're detecting a motion that would send it up or if we're basically detecting the water. So we're going to come here to if, and we're going to say for the first one, if you have this video motion on the sprite, and if the video motion on the sprite is at least a certain amount, right? So we're not just going to have any, let any certain motion be viable, because in that case, any motion on the background even would count, right? Like you see this, this curtain moving behind me, like that's technically speaking a motion, right? So if you just put it any motion, that would count too. But we don't want that to count. We want specific motions to count, right? So motions that are actual gestures to count. So for that reason, we're going to have a motion that is at least, let's say like 20 or something like that, right? So if we have a video motion on the sprite that is at least 20, I'll just make that, bring that over here. All right, so if we have a video motion that on the sprite that is at least 20, then we're going to have another feature here where we bounce it up. Okay, so we're gonna worry about that later, right? We're not gonna worry about that for now. Let's just make sure we have everything set up correctly. So if we had that, we're gonna have another function where we program the sprite essentially bouncing up and going back up into Oblivion. So if that's that, we're gonna have that working later. And if not that, then we're going to check and see if it's actually hitting the water. So we're going to say, hey, if it is indeed touching this sprite, which is called water, if it touches water, then in that case, we want to make sure, remember how we had lives as one of our variables. We're going to have our lives go down by 1 because obviously if it hits the water, that means that we've lost a life, right? Because we want to make sure that doesn't happen. So we're going to go over here and change water by negative, or change live, sorry, by -1. And of course, we're also going to have to delete the clone, right? Because once the clone hits the water, it essentially dies, right? If that makes sense. So we're going to have to delete the clone as well. There we go, delete this clone. Now we're just going to put that there. All right, so that's that. And of course, for this one, we're going to make another function, as I was alluding to before, for bouncing up. So we're just going to call it bounce up. All right, so bounce up is over here. And again, we're going to go through what we're going to put in here in bounce up in the next video. But for now, just put bounce up in here, right? So anytime we detect that motion, that is at least a certain amount, so at least 20 pixels of motion, then just bounce up that sprite, all right? But of course, in the next video, we need to talk about what bounce up actually is, and we need to program that. So join me in the next one to go over that one.